What if Tanjiro had Satoru Gojo's powers? Limitless, infinity, red, blue, hollow, purple, six eyes, everything. See, our story begins just like in the original timeline. Tanjiro still trains under Urokodaki's guidance, learns water breathing, goes to the final selection, defeats the hand demon, meets Zenitsu and Inosuke, and goes through all the challenges up to the fight against Rui, the Lower Moon 5. And it's in this fight against Rui that everything changes, because just like Gojo had his awakening against Toji, Tanjiro has his awakening here. When Tanjiro is being cornered by the demon's bloody threads, his life flashes before his eyes, and at that moment, his eyes change color. And instead of Tanjiro cutting the demon's threads with the Hinokami Kagura, the threads freeze in the air around Tanjiro. Infinity has been activated. Tanjiro passes through the demon's threads without even being touched. Tanjiro defeats Rui before Gyu Tomioka arrives. When the Hashiras, Shinobu, and Tomioka arrive, they realize that Tanjiro defeated the Lower Moon completely on his own. This is something surreal, because defeating the Lower Moon is enough to immediately promote him to the rank of Hashira. So they take him to the Demon Slayer Core, and that's where the Hashira meeting begins. Everything happens the same way, but with the discussion that Tanjiro can't become a Hashira because of Nezuko. That's exactly why he remains under investigation by the Hashiras. The biggest difference here is that everyone knows Tanjiro is ridiculously stronger. While our protagonists recover at the Butterfly Mansion, Tanjiro trains his new ability without even knowing exactly how to use it. Sometimes the Infinity would activate on its own and save him, but since he doesn't know how to use it for now, depending only on chance could leave him in a tough spot. When Tanjiro and his friends are sent to the Mugen train alongside the Flame Hashira, the real change starts to happen. See, Tanjiro still hasn't told anyone about these powers. That's exactly because he doesn't even know what they are, and the Demon Slayers are about to find out during the Mugen train arc. And in the dream world that Enmu puts the Demon Slayers in, Tanjiro ends up regaining awareness of the Hinokami Kagura, using it to defeat Enmu alongside Inosuke. And when they defeat Lower Moon 1, the train derails, and then Upper Moon 3, Akaza appears. Do you remember that Tanjiro was stabbed by the train conductor after Enmu was defeated? So, here Infinity is activated, protecting the hunter, allowing Tanjiro to immobilize him. When Akaza and Rengoku start fighting, Rengoku still thinks Tanjiro is just a talented swordsman, because that's all he's seen so far. But when Akaza is about to deliver a powerful blow to Rengoku, Tanjiro finally intervenes. After all, he isn't incapacitated here. Tanjiro realizes the threat of Akaza's attacks and uses red for the first time in front of everyone, throwing Akaza back miles away, giving Rengoku room to breathe. Everyone is confused because they've never seen anything like this before. Now Tanjiro joins the fight. He can't just keep using red, blue, or hollow purple non-stop because he doesn't know how to use them. He's still training his skills, and with this awakening of the red, Tanjiro feels he can do even more. But since Rengoku and everyone else are right there, Tanjiro doesn't want to accidentally hit them while testing his powers. Instead, he fights up close. Do you remember how Gojo used the blue to enhance his attacks? Well, that's basically what Tanjiro starts to do, but with his sword. Each sword strike is pulled forward by the blue at the last second, making the attacks hit much harder and faster than they should. Since Tanjiro is still learning how to use his abilities, he can't use them with precision, so he can't just instantly defeat Akaza with hollow purple straight to his chest. But with Rengoku helping, the fight starts to change drastically in favor of the hunters. Akaza is forced to take the fight seriously, and when the sun finally starts to rise, Akaza tries to escape. The problem is that Tanjiro can use blue to pull him back into the sunlight, so no matter what Akaza does, he won't be able to get away. Soon after a lot of struggle, Akaza is defeated. Upper Moon 3 is gone and Muzan is terrified. When they return to the Demon Slayer Core, since Tanjiro has already defeated the Lower Moon and helped defeat the Upper Moon 3, Booya Shiki offers him the chance to become a Hashira. However, Tanjiro refuses. After all, he thinks that this isn't really his own strength. He didn't gain these powers through swordsmanship or breathing techniques. No other Hashira has abilities like Infinity, Red, Blue, or the Six Eyes. He doesn't really feel worthy of taking a Hashira position yet. Instead, he keeps training. Tanjiro focuses on his swordsmanship, the Hinokami Kagura, and becoming stronger on his own. Because of this, he actually puts his training with the Six Eyes and Limitless aside for a while. In the Entertainment District arc, everything starts exactly the same way until Tanjiro fights against Daki. This is where things change completely. Tanjiro is able to handle things on his own this time. And when Daki starts to show her real abilities, Tanjiro gets cornered and starts using Gojo's abilities again. He starts using blue to throw her off balance, and since there's no one else around and most of the area is already destroyed, he can use the power of red and blue with much more freedom. The biggest problem for Daki is that she physically can't touch him because of Infinity. Every attack stops before reaching him. That way, Tanjiro ends up defeating the Oni by himself even before Tengen arrives. When Gyutaro appears, Tanjiro can't subdue him immediately. But the real Upper Moon 6 still can't actually hit him because of the Infinity. When Tengen, Inosuke and Zenitsu finally arrive, there's that whole situation where Tanjiro runs out of breath. And Nezuko needs to save him. That never happens in this timeline. Instead, they're all focused on Gyutaro. Tanjiro starts fighting alongside Tengen. He begins to channel blue through his sword to disrupt Gyutaro's movements and create openings for Tengen. And unlike the original timeline, Tanjiro is never poisoned. But there's a problem: his stamina. Since he hasn't trained Gojo's abilities that much, he starts to get exhausted. So Tanjiro needs to make a choice. Does he keep using blue to boost his attack, or does he keep Infinity active so Gyutaro can't hit him? Well, he decides to stop using blue so much and focus most of his energy on Infinity because that's his main defense. Even so, he's still a great swordsman and keeps helping Tengen put pressure on the enemy. Meanwhile, Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Nezuko, who stay in control here, are dealing with Daki. Eventually, both demons are defeated. The Upper Moon 6 pair is done for. Tanjiro awakens his mark, and Nezuko even uses her Blood Demon art to heal everyone from the poison. And everything ends well. Tanjiro learns a very important lesson from this fight. He realizes that just having Gojo's abilities is not enough. If he doesn't train them properly, he'll always have stamina problems, especially if he keeps fighting the Upper Moons. He doesn't want to be forced to choose between Infinity, Blue, Red, or the Six Eyes ever again. So after this arc, Tanjiro makes sure to start seriously training Gojo's abilities, along with his swordsmanship, and this becomes a huge turning point in this timeline. After the Entertainment District arc, Tanjiro starts to realize that every time he uses blue through his sword, it puts enormous pressure on the blade itself. The sword simply wasn't made to withstand this kind of power, so he asks Haga Nezuka to make an even stronger Nichirin blade, one made with a mix of tougher metal that can handle blue and the strength he channels through it. And this is actually the perfect reason for him to go to the Swordsmith village. Unlike in the original timeline, Tanjiro didn't damage his Nichirin in the fight against the Upper Moon 6. The problem here is different, and it's not that his swordsmith refuses to make a sword for him. The problem is that his swordsmith doesn't even know if a sword like that can be made. So Tanjiro goes there personally to see if there's a way to forge a stronger blade. Later, that's what makes Orochi's original sword more important, because it was made from material much more resistant than modern Nichirin blades. The Swordsmith village arc basically starts in the same way. Tanjiro still trains with the Orochi doll, meets Mitsuri, Muichiro, and Genya. Everything goes normally until Upper Moon 4 appears and throws Muichiro far away. Now, this is where things change. Tanjiro immediately tells everyone to get away. Of course, Genya completely ignores this and runs forward. Anyway, Tanjiro quickly grabs him and flies away with Genya, getting them out of danger while being chased by Ranteng's clones. Now in a completely open area, Tanjiro decides to try something he has never tried before in a real fight. He tells Genya and Nezuko to look for the demon's real body. Meanwhile, he will take care of the clones. Tanjiro launches himself into the air and unleashes Hollow Purple, the fusion of red and blue that he trained so hard for. The attack tears through the battlefield and completely destroys the emotion clones. The problem is that since it's the first time Tanjiro has unleashed such a powerful attack, the purple sphere wasn't as big as it could have been, only grazing the clones. Soon, Upper Moon 4 immediately realizes how dangerous Tanjiro is. So, instead of staying separated, the clones merge and form the hatred clone, Zora Kuten. Now, Tanjiro is forced to enter a real fight, but unlike the original timeline, he spent months training his skills after the Entertainment District arc. His stamina is much better. Tanjiro fights against Zora. using blue to pull his attacks forward and red to create openings. He overwhelms the clone and keeps him cornered. Meanwhile, Genya and Nezuko are searching for the real body. The problem is that Genya still can't land the finishing blow on his own. That's when Mitsuri arrives. Instead of helping against the hatred clone, she goes straight to help Genya and Nezuko track down the main body of Rantengo. While the pursuit for the Oni's body was happening, Nezuko was exposed to the sun and became immune to sunlight, while Mitsuri exterminated Rantengo, saving the Swordsmith village. Muichiro also defeats Upper Moon 5 and awakens his Demon Slayer mark. And since Tanjiro handled most of the fight on his own, no one gets even close to as injured as they did in the original timeline. In the Hashira training arc, Rengoku is the one who takes over Muichiro's training spot. Since Rengoku already has experience teaching swordsmen and training more powerful demon slayers like Mitsuri, he would fit much better in this role. This way, Muichiro has more time to train himself. Other than that, the Hashira training arc stays the same. When Muzan invades the corpse to go after Nezuko, Ubuyashiki sacrifices himself for the cores in an attempt to kill Muzan. But the plan fails and everyone is thrown into the Infinity Castle. Because of the 6 eyes, Tanjiro can basically see everything that's happening around the battlefield. So instead of wandering through the Infinity Castle like everyone else, he starts going after Muzan's upper moons, finding himself alone with Kokushibo. This time, Nakimi decides to separate the demon slayers differently, since Kokushibo is the best option to deal with Tanjiro at this moment without help. So she teleports Sanemi and Gyome and Shinobu to fight against Duma, the Upper Moon 2. However, what happens is that Inosuke and Kanao arrive to give them powerful support, and let's be honest, Duma doesn't stand a chance here. Meanwhile, Zenitsu is still fighting against Kaigaku, the substitute Upper Moon. Mitsuri, Obanai, and Yushiro take control of the Infinity Castle by defeating Nakime. And all of this happens while the most important fight is taking place here, the fight between Tanjiro and Kokushibo. Tanjiro barely uses Hinokami Kagura in the fight. He relies entirely on Gojo's abilities. And just like Gojo enters Shinjuku against Sukuna, Tanjiro opens the fight with a massive hollow purple. Kokushibo barely manages to avoid being completely erased, and he immediately realizes that he's facing something beyond anything he's ever seen before. The fight becomes insane. Tanjiro keeps Infinity active the whole time because he doesn't want to risk being hit by Kokushibo's moon breathing. Using blue with his sword and the 6 eyes, he starts going head to head with Kokushibo, blow for blow. Every attack Kokushibo launches is analyzed, every movement is read. Even the final form of Upper Moon 1 isn't enough eventually. Tanjiro overwhelms and defeats Upper Moon 1 completely on his own. And as soon as Muzan realizes that Nakimi is being controlled and the hunters have taken over the Infinity Castle, he immediately kills her. This way, with the castle collapsing, everyone comes face to face with Muzan. When Tanjiro arrives on the battlefield, he doesn't have a single injury. Thanks to his powers, Tanjiro says it will be better to fight alone. His abilities are just too destructive. With the hunters around him, he needs to hold back all his power. Soon, the Hashiras and the hunters take on the task of evacuating the civilians so that Tanjiro doesn't have to hold back in this fight. The final battle begins, and every time Muzan tries to attack him with everything he's got, Infinity blocks the attack. Every time Muzan tries to create distance, Tanjiro uses blue to pull him back. Every time Muzan tries to unleash his massive attacks, Tanjiro counterattacks with red. And whenever Muzan tries to completely escape from the battlefield, Tanjiro simply pulls him back with blue. The fight basically turns into Muzan trying everything possible, while Tanjiro slowly wears him down. Tanjiro fires hollow purple whenever he finds an opening, and Muzan is forced to constantly regenerate just to stay alive. At that point, the battle isn't about defeating Muzan, it's about surviving until the sun rises. And that's exactly what Tanjiro does. He keeps pressing Muzan over and over until the sun finally starts to rise. Muzan tries to run away desperately. Tanjiro uses blue to drag him back, and Muzan burns and dies once and for all, putting an end to his reign of terror. And look, Tanjiro never becomes the Demon King because Muzan never had the chance to infect him. The battle ends right there. Unfortunately, the Hashiras who awakened their Slayer mark still have to deal with the curse of the mark, dying at the age of 25. However, notice that we didn't have any casualties in this final battle except for Guillaume, who had already passed the age of 25 overall. The Hashiras survive in this timeline, living in peace until they turn 25 and the rest living a happy life. With Gojo's powers, Tanjiro became the strongest person alive. Not even Yorichi could defeat him. But if you thought this theory was insane, like the video so I can keep bringing more videos like this. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I need your help to reach 200,000 subscribers. I'm counting on you. Take this moment to click on this video here. I'm sure you'll like it. See you then, otaku.